Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We're reading the next chunk of Zach's Lie. We're starting on page 170. Zach has found his father's journal. Peter has found Zach's journal. A mysterious Hector Jones, Peter has made a connection that there's this man on a paper that he snuck from the journal, or Zach's dad's journal, when he dropped it. Looks just like the man, this Hector Jones. They've met up in the park. What is Peter going to demand? Let's see. So if we kind of go back just a little bit to start, just as a reminder. So Peter was looking at his watch. You're late. Where's my journal? Peter reached into his backpack and pulled the journal out. Here you go, he said cheerfully and handed it to him. Zach was not expecting this. Don't look so shocked, Peter smirked. I don't need the journal anymore. I already know what's in it. The 3 E's. Peter knew how this worked better than most. All he had to do was tell the story to one person, and the Grangers might as well change the name back to Osborne's. What do you want? Zach thought. Peter would not ask him for money, but he did surprise him. I want you to break up with Kat, he said. Are you serious? Dead serious. Why? Call it a test. What am I supposed to say to her? I don't care what you say to her. All I know is it better work. If I hear of you walking to school with her, going up to the sheep camp, or anything else, everybody in town will know who you are. When Zach got to the Nevada, he went right into the kitchen to find Caitlin. She was mixing salad. Mrs. Cristobal intercepted him before he got to her. You'll be in room 9, she said. It's right next door to Sam's room. It's been empty for a while. I'm afraid there's not much in it, but it'll only be for 1 night. 2 nights, Zach thought. He wasn't going up to the Rubies. Thanks. He walked over to Caitlin. Where were you after school, she asked. I looked all over for you. I went home to get my things. If we were up to Benet, we'd leave tonight. But my mother wouldn't hear of it. We'll be leaving tomorrow, early. Zach looked around the crowded kitchen. He couldn't tell Caitlin now. It would have to wait until dinner. I guess I'll go up and get settled in. He went upstairs. The door to number 9 was open, and Mrs. Cristobal was right. There was nothing in the room except a bed and a dresser. Sam walked in behind him. You all ready to go, Zach? Yeah. Are you sure you're feeling okay? Sam had just given him his excuse for not going up to the Rubies. I might be getting sick or something, maybe the flu. Sam looked concerned. Maybe you should lie down for a while, see if you can shake it off. Good idea. Do you want to eat? I don't know. Well, you just rest up for now. If you feel like eating later, come on down. Thanks, Sam. Zach put his backpack at the bottom drawer of the dresser and lay down on the bed. Peter Short waited outside the Nugget Casino for his parents. There was a note on the trailer saying they wanted him to meet them for dinner. They were already a half hour late. He was about ready to go home and make himself something to eat when his mother came up through the door. Your father's a big winner tonight, she said happily, not mentioning a word about being 45 minutes late. How much did he win? $5,000. A moment later, Peter's father came through the door, flushed with excitement. Hey, son, want to go to Reno with us? Your mom and I want to take a run over there while the cards are working. We'll come back Sunday. I don't know, Peter said, trying not to show his disappointment. He knew from past experience that if his parents went to Reno, they wouldn't leave until they had lost every cent they had won. I have a lot of homework to do. No problem, his father said. Peter saw the relief in his father's face. He hadn't wanted Peter to go in the first place. Guess you'll be on your own this weekend then. Wish my parents had trusted me like we trust you. Maybe you should leave enough money here for me to get that ticket to San Francisco, Peter said. What are you talking about? I don't know, just in case you don't win in Reno. Are you trying to sabotage my luck or something? You know better than that. Don't worry about the trip to San Francisco. The cards are with us. When we get back, I'll buy you a first-class ticket to see your brother. Peter knew better than to push it. So are you leaving now? Not until after we eat, his mother said. Where do you want to go? Let's go to the Nevada, Peter said. Big spender, his father said. No problem. We'll have the works. Chapter 21. Zach stayed up in his room until the smell of the Basque food drove him downstairs. He had not eaten since breakfast. He took a chair near Sam at the end of the long table. Feeling better, Sam asked. Not really, but I thought I should eat something. Benet Pascal entertained the table with his stories. He had bought a round of drinks for everyone at the table except Zach, which had put everyone in a merry mood. Despite what he had to tell Caitlin later, Zach felt his mood lighten a little under the influence of the men's laughter and good food. Caitlin brought in a huge bowl of salad and put it in front of Zach with a big smile. He couldn't help but smile back at her. How was he going to tell her that he did not want to see her again? The Short family was shown to a table near the window. As they came in, Peter caught a glimpse of Kat going into the kitchen through the swinging door. He hoped she would wait on their table. She didn't. A minute later, she came back through the kitchen door, balancing a platter of meat in each hand and headed for the long table with the basque borders. Peter followed her progress and was stunned when he saw Zach sitting at the end of the table with his back to him. Kat put the platters on the table, then stood next to Zach and said something to her grandfather. As she spoke, she rested her hand on Zach's shoulder. Peter was too far away to hear what she was saying, but whatever it was, Zach must have found it amusing, because he laughed. "You won't be laughing later, Jack," Peter muttered. "What's that, son?" his mother asked. "Nothing." You called the wrong man's bluff, Peter thought. His parents began recounting their big win at the casino. He had heard it all before and tuned them out as he watched the cat come and go to the long table. On each trip, she either said something to Zach or brushed up against him. By the time their food arrived, Peter was almost too angry to eat. His parents, on the other hand, gulped their food like starved wolves, eager to be on their way to Reno. "So, what are you going to do while we're gone?" his father asked with a mouthful of mashed potatoes. "Hang around the trailer, I guess." "Well, to be honest with you, there's a chance we won't be back by Sunday. Depends on how the cards are running." "I'll be fine," Peter said. As if they cared. It didn't matter when they came back. He already decided he was leaving Elko on the first available flight. He was going to play his last card, and by the time his parents came chugging back into town on empty, he would be in San Francisco. They probably wouldn't even notice he was gone. "I'm going to take off," Peter said, standing up. "We're done too," his father said. Caitlin came into the dining room again and saw Peter and his parents walking out of the dining room. She walked over to the long table, took a hold of Zach's hand, and whispered something to him. Zach immediately pulled his hand out of hers and turned around, but Peter was no longer there. Zach ignored the look of shock on Caitlin's face as he stood up, almost knocking his chair over. "What's the matter, Zach?" Sam asked. The table had gone quiet. The men stared at him. "Nothing," Zach said. "I've got to go to the restroom." He didn't wait to see their response. He wove his way through the other tables, hoping to catch Peter before he left, but he was too late. He stepped out the front door and saw two people getting into their car. He ran over to them. "Excuse me," he said. "Aren't you Peter's parents?" "Well, sure, we sure are," Peter's dad said. "I'm a friend of his from school. I saw you in the Nevada eating. Where's Peter?" "I think he went home," Peter's mother said. "He had a lot of homework to do." "Oh," Zach said. "I was hoping to talk with him, and I had a question about one of our assignments. Which direction did he go?" "We have a place at the trailer park over on Cypress," Peter's dad said. "Number 42. If you hurry, you can probably catch up with him before he gets there." Zach ran all the way to the trailer park. When he got there, he had a difficult time finding Peter's trailer in the dark. The numbers weren't marked very well. He didn't know exactly what he was going to say to Peter when he found him. He would apologize for something, tell Peter that he hadn't had a chance to talk to Caitlin alone, that he would have already broken up with her if Peter hadn't shown up at the Nevada. He found the trailer. The lights were off. He knocked on the metal door, but no one answered. Now what? Zach sat down at the rickety picnic table in front of the trailer. Maybe Peter had stopped somewhere on his way home. He would have to show up eventually. Zach decided to wait for him. Caitlin knocked on Sam's door. "Where's Zach?" she asked. "He's not in his room." "I know," Sam said. "What's going on?" "I was going to ask you the same thing. Did anything happen today at school?" "Zach's been acting strange all day, but he wouldn't talk about it. It started this morning when he saw the writing on Mrs. Miller's chalkboard." "Well, I'm sure it's nothing to worry about. He must have gone home to get something." Caitlin looked at him doubtfully. "If he doesn't come back soon," Sam continued, "I'll get in the truck and see if I can find him." "I'll go with you." "No, you go home with your folks. We need to get an early start tomorrow." Caitlin started to protest, but Sam put his hand up. "I'll have Zach give you a call when he gets back. It's nothing to worry about." But Sam was very worried. He had just called Zach's house. No one had answered. He had known something was wrong when he saw Zach after school and was kicking himself for not pushing the issue more. There was a knock on Alonzo Asnar's door. Paul got up and looked through the peephole. "It's another kid." "Let him in," Alonzo said. "Perhaps he has some news for us." Paul opened the door and Peter stepped into the room. Alonzo stared at the boy, trying to remember who he was. "I'm afraid I've forgotten your name, Peter." "That's right. I believe I told you to call if you had information for me." "I was going to," Peter said, "but I thought it would be better if I talked to you face to face." "Please, have a seat. Tell us what you've learned." Peter sat down. He had rehearsed what he was going to say all the way to the hotel, but he expected Hector to be alone. Maybe we should talk by ourselves, Peter suggested. Alonzo smiled smoothly. These men are close associates. You can speak freely in front of them. I found the Osborns, he said. Alonzo did not react. Over the past week, they had heard the same thing half dozen times from different informants, and each time the information had been wrong. Alonzo knew that if he stayed in town much longer, the Osborns would find out that someone was making inquiries and telling the authorities. How much was that reward again? Peter asked. $200. I think the information I have is worth more than that. Oh, really? Peter nodded. The boy's name used to be Jack, and his sister's name was Joanne. That's correct, Alonzo said, hiding his excitement. What are their names now? I want to talk to you about the reward money first, Peter said with a bravado he did not feel. I suppose we could increase it if the information you have proves to be accurate. Say $500. Peter smiled, his confidence growing. If you put a zero on the end of that 500, we have a deal. I don't think the information is worth that much. I think it is. Alonzo. Alonzo stared at him with astonishment. Where did you hear that name? What about the reward? Alonzo nodded to Paul. Paul went into the other room and came back with a thick stack of bills. Alonzo laid the bills on the table in $1,000 piles. Here's the money, Alonzo said, but you must earn it. Peter stared at the piles. He could go anywhere in the world with this kind of money. They call themselves the Grangers now, he said. Alonzo pushed a stack of bills towards Peter. Peter picked up the money. They lived at 2276 Elm Street. Another stack was pushed over. His mother's opening a bookstore right across the street from here. Across the street, Alonzo repeated. She was right across the street from us this whole time. He glared at Barry and Paul. The store's not open yet, Peter said. 2 more to go, Peter. They're both yours if you tell me how you heard the name of Alonzo. Peter reached into his shirt pocket and took out the piece of paper he had picked up in the hallway. Alonzo stared down at the sketch. Where did you get this? He asked very quietly. It fell out of Jack's journal. It's not in Jack's writing, though. It must have come from someplace else. And where's this journal now? Jack has it. Alonzo pushed the rest of the money across, then nodded to Barry and Paul. They grabbed Peter, pinned him to the floor. Alonzo retrieved his money. Your information has been very valuable, Peter. Unfortunately, you know a little too much for your own good. Peter could not respond because Paul had stuffed a wash rag from the bathroom into his mouth. What do you want to do with him? Barry asked. Alonzo looked down at Peter, who was still lying on the floor. Take him to the airplane, he said. We'll deal with him later. Tell the pilot to get the airplane ready. Barry and I will collect the other passengers on this so-called journal. The Osborns are going on a vacation, an unscheduled vacation, to Colombia. Sam pulled up to the Nevada Hotel after having spent the last hour driving the streets looking for Zach. He had been to his house 3 times and even stopped at Daryl's to ask if he had seen Zach. He walked up the stairs hoping the boy would return while he was out looking for him. Zach was not in his room. Sam stepped inside and looked around for some clue as to where he might have gone. He found Zach's backpack in the dresser, opened it, and pulled out the journal inside. Zach was getting cold waiting outside the trailer. Where could Peter be? He hoped he wasn't telling everyone in Elko about the Grangers being the Osborns. If Zach didn't get back to the Nevada Hotel soon, he knew Sam would probably call the police. That's all I need right now, he thought. If I'd spoken to Caitlin before dinner, I wouldn't have this problem. Who am I kidding? If I hadn't kept a journal, I wouldn't have been in this problem, but getting rid of the journals would have been like throwing my life away. Continuing the journals is the only thing that's kept me sane through all this. He decided to give Peter at least another hour. The police hadn't found him walking the busiest streets in Elko, and they wouldn't find him here. When he got back to the Nevada, he would tell Sam that he and Daryl had gone to pick something up, stopped at Daryl's, and lost track of time. Alonzo and Barry parked their rental car across the street from the Granger's house. Doesn't look like they're home, Barry said. We'll go inside and wait for them. Do you have your flashlight? The front door was locked. They went around to the back and found that the door was locked as well. Alonzo broke a window pane and reached in and turned the latch inside. Inside, they flashed their beams around the living, dining family room. Alonzo called Paul with his cell phone. The Osborns seemed to have stepped out. Ask the boy where they might be. I'll call you back. Paul hung up. I'll search the bedrooms. You take the rest of the house, Alonzo ordered. Shouldn't take long, Barry said, looking around the tiny house. Alonzo started in Zach's room and immediately found the journals and Jack in the Box in the bed. It didn't take him long to realize that these were old journals that were no good to him. He searched the rest of the room without much hope of finding the journal he was looking for. The boy and his mother probably had it with him. "In here," Barry called. Alonzo walked out of the bedroom into the kitchen. Barry had his flashlight on beam on the phone answering machine. "You might find this interesting." He hit the play button. "Zach, this is Mom. I was hoping we'd catch you before you left. There was a mix-up with our hotel reservations. We're at the Best Western. The number is 310-555-0394. Room 394. The conference is great. We're having a wonderful time. Enjoy the mountains and don't forget to take your coat. It's cold up there. We'll be home on Sunday evening. I love you." "Thank you, Mrs. Osborne." Alonzo erased the message. He found a phone book and looked up the area code. 310. "We will go to Los Angeles as soon as we find the boy." His cell phone rang. It was Paul. "Our friends clammed up on us. Won't say a word about where the family is." "Fine," Alonzo said. "We're going to stop by the hotel and pick up our things and take him to the airplane. Tell Peter that if he doesn't tell you what he knows by the time I get there, I'll kill him." "I'll pass it on." Sam parked his truck across from the Grangers and was about ready to go into the house when he saw two men coming down from the Grangers' driveway. Rather than confront him, he stayed in his cab and watched them get into a late model car and drive away. His first thought was to follow them, but he was concerned that Zach might be in the house. As soon as their car turned the corner, he grabbed the flashlight from under the seat and sprinted for the backyard. He found the broken window pane. He had a good idea who these men were, or at least who they worked for. The Grangers had been discovered. He went through the house quickly. In Zach's room, he found the Jack in the Box, a pile of journals, and a tiny astronaut. On the way back to the hotel, he made one more stop. How does Sam know the Grangers have been discovered? We'll find out more next time. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.